What's up, everyone? Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and I'm back. Thanks for bearing with me the last week and a half while I was paralytic for a Bucks night and then caught the flu and have been basically down and out for the week since. But I'm back just in time to talk about our win against the Pies. 10-11-71. We beat the Pies yet again, 13-13-91. Good times for all, right? Yes, absolutely. Now, I want to pick apart the hows, the whys, some of the key beats. Let's quickly start with the worm before I jump into some of the team stats. We basically had control of the game for its entirety, but of course, Collingwood being what Collingwood is, no matter how depleted they may or may not be, and I don't want to get too carried away with that, like I've seen of some commentary by Pies supporters in particular, because they still played with 17 grand final listed players out there on Friday night. So I don't really buy the talk that, oh, we're so shot with injuries. And that's like, you're having a rough time with injuries, but it's not nearly as bad as you're saying. There's so many teams in this competition that are doing much worse than the Pies right now. But yeah, I mean, the worm shows that like we were pretty well in control the majority of the game there. Certainly the Pies had their moments, and certainly in that last quarter, even though we'd started to pull away late, I had my worries because we know what they can do. But we did have this game in control very early on. That burst of 3 goals in the first few minutes from Shawnee Manor, as well as 2 from Shannon Neal, really did great things for us early in the piece there. The Pies fought it back, got some of their own momentum, and once we ripped that back away from the beginning of the second term, we were okay. It was just there was that arm wrestle for a while, and then we broke them. And that was really, really good to see from a team who obviously has this experienced faces, and there's plenty of names that we know and love and have been doing an amazing job for years. But there's the new faces. And I don't want to get too crazy about it because everyone's been talking about him so far, but he was wonderful last night. Lawson Humphreys was exceptional in his third game. Ollie Dempsey's doing great things. Shannon Neal looked great. The next generation, Jai Clark. And I want to make a big, big deal about Jai Clark. He's not going to receive too many accolades, I don't think, from this particular game. But you could really see his development as a player shining through. Sorry, my voice is still failing me a bit. You could really see his development beginning to shine through in this game. Just the way he continued to batter up to the next contest. He would just keep going and put his body on the line and would win the ball. He's starting to kind of learn how to position himself, not just to be in the contest and potentially split it open, but to actually do so whilst maintaining some semblance of control of the ball. There's players you see, and I think Danger's probably the best resource for him really in this space. For years, Danger has been able to burst through a contest, sometimes just grab the ball and go. But there's plenty of other times where he's just diving and he's pouncing and he's throwing his weight in there. And yet, despite how chaotic the nature of his presence is, he still managed to maintain control of the ball or keeps it within his grasp. And that's been such a huge asset for him for these many years. And you can see what's going on with Jai there, where he's not necessarily built like Danger, at least not yet. But he's applying himself in the same way. He's learning how to track that ball and keep it in front of him. It was really, really good to see. And I know everyone's going to make a big deal about Lawson Humphreys, and deservedly so, but please do not sleep on the output of Jai Clark this weekend. I thought he was sensational. And there was plenty of other blokes who did an amazing job as well. Sam DeConing didn't win many hitouts, got absolutely poleaxed in terms of the actual moment-to-moment rucking contest, but what he brought around the ground was extraordinary. Completely made a mockery of Darcy Cameron from that point onwards. He was awesome. And honestly, the one big thorn in our side, and I think the thing that caused us some little troubles over the course of the night, was Jamie Elliott. And unfortunately, as soon as I saw that he was listed to come back, I got worried because Jamie Elliott has a crazy knack for causing Geelong, in particular, headaches. He plays well. We're clearly like his bunny team of sorts. He's lined up pretty well against us over the years. He got some good matchups. We had a few, even over the course of the night, we had a few drop marks. Collar had a weirdly down night for the first time in a while. I'm not too concerned. He's been having an absolutely sensational season this year, but dropped a few that were uncharacteristic of the Collar of 2024. So hopefully he kind of straightens himself back up. Is good to go next week. But, players of the class of Jamie Elliott pounced. He took Mark of the Year a Mark of the Year contender, I should say, over Lawson Humphreys. He was dynamic around the ground, kicked a few goals. He was great. So, but without him, the Pies wouldn't have come close. So let's move on to some of the team stats. before we kind of cycle back to some player-specific things again shortly. So team stats, like everything really stacked up in Geelong's favour. We dominated the game, but we also played a very 2018 through 20, or 2016 through 20 inspired game here. Very much built upon control and a lot less of the chaos. Well, not chaos, but the speed on the ball that we've seen in the past. Not that was absent, but it was built upon a foundation of control, which I think is what worked for us very, very well in 2022. I think we just took it a little bit overdrive, and I don't mean necessarily in a bad way, but we took it into overdrive in this game against the Pies. The reason was simple, though, because the Pies were very, very small last night. They were lacking for height. Nathan Kruger was their solo forward, former Cat, and didn't disgrace himself over the course of the night. But they were very, very small overall. And so as a result, we needed to be mindful of the way they were going to play and also utilize the strengths we have, which is the strength, the height, and the way we can control the game in that sense. Slowing down their speed being a huge part of that. And so we did. Lots of chipping, lots of sideways movement, slowly inching the ball up the ground. But then that explosion of speed would come. It'd get in the hands of a Max Holmes or someone who's, really dynamic with their kicking. Not that Max Holmes isn't, sorry, but someone who's really especially dynamic with their kicking, like Brian Myers, for example. And all of a sudden, you've gone from kind of sideways back and forward for, covering maybe 20 meters up the ground between 7 or 8 kicks. And then all of a sudden you've gone 100 meters in the next 10 seconds because you've got it in the hands of a game breaker. And that was awesome. It was really, really strategic. It was very, very well done. And I really applaud Chris Scott and the team for the way they planned out this match because it was really, really successful. You're not going to keep the Pies down all the time. And we didn't. They certainly had their moments. And of course, when you make an error, and we saw a few of those occur at different stages, when you make an error, it's going to cost you. And it did. But overall, a really, really well implemented game plan. The inside 50s dominated that, which is great to see. Disposal efficiency, awesome. Efficiency inside 50 down, but of course we were pumping the ball in there a lot more. And, such as the beast a little bit, not too worried there. Free kicks, we won one again. But the Pies supporters have been saying that the umpires cost them the game. Sure, guys. Let's move on. Hit-outs, we've discussed that. Clearances, great to see. Centre clearances in particular, amazing to see. This has been such a weakness for us. But we got 16-6. And we'll look at some of the individual numbers shortly to kind of identify where those numbers were coming from. But it's a great thing to see that one of our biggest weaknesses of late has been the centre clearance, and it's starting to come good. We're clicking. Danger's come back. What we've been doing, Sam DeConing and Tom Stewart's been awesome. It's working incredibly well for our midfield right now. Possession, that all kind of matches with everything else we've discussed so far. Marks, we played a shorter kicking, stop and start sort of game. Marks inside 50, sure. Contested marks, sure. Inset marks, we were down, but again, that was the nature of the game that we were playing, just as much as the nature of the game that Collingwood was playing, that I think had a big bearing on that. We don't need to make too much of that one. It's not going to appear here, but it was certainly a stat that was being discussed a lot throughout the course of the night, like it was a bad thing for Geelong, and normally it would be if we were playing our normal sort of game, but we weren't, so you can kind of ignore it. Scores, all that sort of, like nothing really to see. He tackles inside 50, great. The defensive pressure, the thing we've been talking about a lot lately, that was present. That was awesome as well. 1%ers, the Pies were chasing tail a lot. I get it. Though, to be fair, they maintained their average. We were a bit down, but again, we were controlling a lot more. We were playing a more meticulous, slower game that doesn't necessarily then lead to big 1%ers. All right, let's move over to some player stats where we can kind of look at where some of these clearances came from and more. Of course, let's start before we really get into the advanced stats. Let's start by, again, acknowledging the efforts of Lawson Humphries. 23 disposals, Rising Star nomination this week. Surely, I say this though, and we've had a few games already played since. This is it's Saturday night as I'm recording this. Carlton has already gone down to the Dogs. Great news for us. Freo has already gone down to the Hawks. Great news for us. But of course, I haven't tracked those games super thoroughly yet, so I don't know if there's someone else who's kind of put their hand up to receive the nomination this week. But Lawson Humphries, 23 disposals at 96% disposal efficiency, if I recall. It's pretty hard to beat. and doing it on the Friday night lights against the Pies, all those sort of things, that adds points, I think. And so I expect that we'll be celebrating a Lawson Humphreys Rising Star nomination this week. But again, I talked about some of these other players before. Sam DeConing and what's been going on with him. Tom Stewart, the change has been made with him. It's continuing to show through. He's been able to still, intercept and take marks, but he's able to get his hands on the ball a lot. He's playing this beautiful hybrid of his traditional defensive role and this new midfield gig. It's working incredibly well. Teams don't know what to do with it at the moment. It took them a long while to work out exactly how to nail this, but they've done it. It's awesome. Graham Myers, in my opinion, was the best on the ground. Through, obviously, I mean, we can see it, like clearance numbers were good, but also like there was defensive pressure, there was offensive pressure, the delivery inside 50. He got let down a couple of occasions where there was some brilliant deliveries to leading forwards who then missed the shots on goal. So his usual goal assist figure that should have been probably 2 or 3 at least is unfortunately 0 tonight, but you can only control so much of it. You can deliver it. You can't make him kick it between the sticks. Danger, again, I touched on him and how he's continuing to build into this season. It's been awesome to see. I spoke last year a fair bit about his game time, and that was kind of high 60s to lower 70s at different points. I am noticing it's creeping up a little bit at the moment, 77% here. That's good to see. As long as his body's feeling all right. I think heart gets in the mouth a little bit when he gets the ball and he goes to break, because I just worry if the hamstring's going to go. But at the moment, things are going well there as well. Honestly, across the board, it was a pretty great effort. Shannon Neal really struggled after he copped a hit to the throat. I wish I could say that I'd copped a hit to the throat, and that's why I sound as bad as I do now. Shannon, congrats on having a nice justification. I've just got the flu. But Ollie Henry came on, did a great job for him in the quarter that he played. Was awesome there. Got to stick it up the Pies supporters as well, which is always nice. Gary Rowan, I thought, was kind of limited at different stages, but was a physical presence when he needed to be. No real concerns there. Honestly, there was very much a team effort. I don't look at anyone here and go, they played poorly, which is what you want to see. As a team who's starting to kind of re-click and try and make an assault on the finals and is positioning themselves very well for top 2, thanks to some of today's results as well, you want to see the full team effort and not individuals dragging the team. And that's what we got. Of course, there were highlights. Jeremy Cameron kicking 3 goals, 3, playing deep forward was awesome. Honestly, accuracy is just a bit wobbly at the moment. I thought the boots were meant to fix everything, Jez. I thought you got those behinds out of your system last week, and then it was just going to be roses from here. But 3 goals, 3, maybe the boots still need a little bit more time. There's plenty of good things to see, though. Brad Close was really dynamic again. Jack Bowes, I keep singing praise of Jack Bowes and what he's doing in the midfield. It's been awesome. I feel like if I keep going, I'm going to talk about every single player individually. Honestly, I think the only person who maybe had a quote-unquote down night was Collar, and I don't think he really lowered his colours all that far either. Just had a few uncharacteristic fumbles. And he wasn't the only one. When it comes to some of those advanced stats, again, let's kind of talk about the centre clearances and where that came from. Led by Danger, but Tom Stewart as well, Sam DeConing in the ruck. Like, this is where, like, these changes, and of course the return of Danger is making an enormous impact. 5 centre clearances. Just 5 blokes. That's all it was. We didn't have to factor in what some of the others can do as we roll them through. And of course, Tanner Bruin is close-ish to returning. Cam Guthrie, I don't know, but I don't know about the timeline. The club's being a little bit cagey still. But you feel like he's a walk-up surely when the time comes. I don't know. It's a really challenging thing because the team is finally firing again. There's a lot of stats here, and again, like Danger with the inside 50s linking with the clearances. Everything just painted such a rosy picture last night. And it leaves me feeling really bullish about where we're at. Certainly, off the back of all those losses, what was it, 2 wins from 2 months? Dark days, and I guess I wasn't really able to talk about this a little bit over the course of the last few weeks due to absence. But there were dark days there. It was starting to get a bit of a worry. People were starting to turn on each other. It was getting harder and harder to find positives. They were there, but it was harder to kind of hone in on them when there was a lot more negatives. There you go, 96% for Lawson Humphreys there as I bring up that stat. But now the positives are flowing plentifully again. Everyone's bodies, touch wood, still remain intact. Everyone is in a good, healthy state right now. and let's maintain it. Cats fans, let me know what you thought of the game against the Pies. It was great to see the win. We've got the Dogs next week, who have just put in a pretty solid performance against the Blues in Cripper's 200th. The Blues had everything to fight for and still got rolled by a pretty dynamic Bulldogs team. I think we've got a bit of a challenge this week. It's at home, which helps, and they haven't won in Geelong since, I don't know, the prehistoric period. So hopefully we can get the chocolates there, but it will not be an easy game, I suspect. That or they get carried away with themselves off the back of the win and put in a performance like that against Port a week or two ago. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, let us know what you think in the comments. That's our reaction to the round 18 match against the Pies. We got the win. Always good to get a win against the Pies. Go check out all the Hoops Crew content on Patreon. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Catch us on socials at the Hoops Crew. Find me at Paul James Games. And until next time, remain Geelong strong, and I'll see you later.